Welcome, everyone. And for those who I have not greeted yet, Happy New Year to everyone. We're here for our January Shotsuki monthly memorial service. We've had actually, as I was mentioning to some of you earlier, we've had three services from December 31st. We had two services on December 31st, one at 2 o'clock for the New Year's Eve service. And then we also held a service at 11:45, a second service for those who stayed awake till midnight. And then we had our New Year's Day service on January 1st. And I know that some of you have actually attended all three of those services. So this is your fourth service in 3 days. So thank you for joining us, and thank you to all of you for joining us on this Shotsuki monthly memorial service. I do hope that 2021 will be a much better year than the previous year. But I'd like to begin this morning service with a moment of silent meditation, followed by the recitation of the Nembutsu. Naman nobs, naman nobs, naman nobs, naman nobs, naman nobs. Next, we'll have the reciting of the Bandhana Tisarana, and I'm just going to bring that up now. Whoops, that's not it. So we'll all recite the Bandhana Tisarana together, and it's on your screen, or if you have the text, you could read the text yourself. Naman nobs, naman nobs, naman nobs, naman nobs, naman nobs. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to him, the exalted one, the enlightened one, the supremely awakened one. Buddham saranam gacchami. I go to the Buddha for guidance. Dhamma saranam gacchami. I go to the Dharma for guidance. Sangham saranam gacchami. I go to the Sangha for guidance. Naman nobs, naman nobs, naman nobs. We will continue on with the Suture Chanting. We'll be starting off by chanting the Sambujo, which I have put up on the screen now. And following that, we'll be chanting the Sambutsuge. Now, during the Sambutsuge, I'm going to actually bring onto the screen the names of the Shotsuki, the people that we are remembering for this January 2021 Shotsuki service. So you will not see the words of the Sambutsuge when we are chanting. If any of you have incense burner and wish to burn incense during the chanting of the Sambutsuge, please feel free to do so. So we'll begin with the Sambujo, followed by the Sambutsuge. Naman nobs, naman nobs, naman nobs, naman nobs, naman nobs, naman nobs. Please join me in reading the English translation. We respectfully welcome Amida Buddha to our temple as we scatter flowers of joy. We respectfully welcome Shakyamuni Buddha to our temple as we scatter flowers of joy. We respectfully welcome the Buddhas of all times and places to our temple as we scatter flowers of joy.
무
고묘시쇼 대지조국 요세조지 이진나뇨 료가사붓 복노다이치 모시기며 도조조세스 오근요나요 님은어서 가노아이미 노다드이사이 지모라이쇼 신내드조조 이도가곡 게라그안노 오버드시며 내가시쇼 오드가노히 니기쇼쇼욕 지모세소 지혜무게 조려시소 지가신교 계려시시 쇼그도그주 가교조지 닌주게 나만나브 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 간이시그노그 묘노세이사이 노드보나이시 오조 Naman nobs, naman nobs, naman nobs, naman nobs, naman nobs. So please join me in the reading of the English translation, which I have put up on the screen now. Sanbutsuge translation. Praises of the Buddha. Your face shines in great splendor, boundless wondrous dignity, such the greatness of your light, beyond all comparison. Brightness of the sun and moon, and the shining money jewels, when compared to your brilliance, seem to us like blackest ink. Tathagata's countenance transcends all comparison. The great voice of awakening resounds throughout the 10 quarters. Your precepts, learning, effort, meditation, wisdom are virtues beyond all compare, ultimate, supreme, and rare. Your deep meditation has fathomed all the Dharma sea. to the limits and the depth of all things the Buddha teaches. Ignorance, anger, and greed, the world honor one has none. Like a lion among men, measureless your great virtues. Vast are your great virtuous deeds, your deep wisdom is profound. Your radiant luminous light shakes all the world's foundations. When I become a Buddha, equal to the Dharma King, I will transcend birth and death, liberating all beings. My giving, discipline, precept, patience, and effort, meditation and wisdom shall be supreme, unsurpassed. When I attain Buddhahood, everywhere fulfill my vow, bringing peace and tranquility to all beings in doubt and fear. Though there are myriad Buddhas, beyond measure, beyond count, and great sages numberless, like the grains of Ganges sand, I will honor each of them, equally accepting none. Even more importantly, I will seek the supreme way. Even though all Buddha worlds are countless as Ganges sands, even though all lands and realms are boundless without measure, yet my light shall reach them all and illumine every place. Such shall be my perfect work, such my power infinite. When I attain Buddhahood, my land will be first and best, place of practice transcendent, its people sublime and rare. My land is like nirvana, beyond all comparison. In my sincere compassion, I will enlighten all beings. All who come from the 10 quarters to be born into my land will be pure, filled with gladness, peace, and great tranquility. O Buddhas of the 10 quarters, this is my true revelation. In this way, I've made my vows, and I will strive to fulfill them. Buddhas of the 10 quarters, with your wisdom unimpeded, may I always call on you to reveal my intentions. Though my body undergoes so much pain and suffering, I will persevere and strive patiently without regret. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Okay, I'm going to just wait a second. Have you just close? Oops. No, stop. Okay. Okay, let me just there we go. So once again, good morning and Happy New Year to everyone. I don't know if you heard, just while we were chanting, or just as I started chanting, it started really downpouring here. But it looks like it's let up, so it's gotten a little quieter now. Today we've gathered here for this Shotsuki monthly memorial service, but it is very close to the New Year's. And, being the 3rd today, January 3rd, I was thinking about, when it comes to New Year's, we often make resolutions. And 3 is actually a very important number in the Buddhist teachings. And there are a couple of Japanese adages that are associated with 3, the number 3, and Buddhism. And they refer to both, one is to give up very easily, and the other one is more about perseverance. So the first adage or saying that is quite common is mikkabozu. Has any of you heard that term, mikkabozu? Literally, if we translate that into English, bozu means monk. Okay, it's a slang, a slang for the word for monk. Obo-san is the more traditional way of saying it, correct way of saying it, but sort of a slang version of that is bozu. And mikka means 3-day. So 3-day monk is somebody who gives up very easily. So if you've given up, or if you made a New Year's resolution, say, and you've given up by the 3rd day, you're a mikkabozu. Okay, so if you make some kind of resolution or to do something and you give up very easily, they'll say Mikka Bozu, 3-day monk. Okay, you don't have that much perseverance. The other one is Ishi no ue ni mo 3 年. Ishi no ue ni mo 3 年. Ishi is rock, sitting on a rock for 3 years. Okay, and this is talking about literally perseverance of practice, if you will. The monk sitting on a rock for 3 years, meditating. Okay, so you need to have that same kind of endurance or desire to attain enlightenment. And so this is a very common saying in Japanese as well. So here, Mikabo is a 3-day monk versus sitting on a rock for 3 years. Okay, so why I bring this up is that we often this year in particular, some of us might be wondering. I actually received a phone call on January 1st from a gentleman I look after. He's 101 years old now. He lives at a senior residence just close by here, the Maple Senior Residence. And when he called me up on January 1st, he was kind of puzzled. He said, "Sensei, I don't know how I should be greeting you this year because it's not really a happy new year." And so he was saying, what should I be saying? And so I said, well, I guess, in Japanese we say, "Akemashite omedetou gozaimasu," or in English, Happy New Year's. And I said, I think it is a Happy New Year. And the reason why it's a Happy New Year, obviously, the world over, we've endured and are continuing to endure great tragedy with the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. Lost so many lives, and people are continuing to struggle and suffer from it. And from that perspective, yes, it's not a Happy New Year. It's very difficult to say a Happy New Year from that perspective. But in the Buddhist tradition, it is said that the fact that we are able to encounter the teachings is, in many lives, it is very difficult to encounter the teachings. So how grateful or how joyous we should be to be able to encounter it today. In the chant that we chanted, the Sambutsuge, there was a reference to the sands of the Ganges River, right? And talking about how there are so many teachings as endless as the sands of the Ganges River, and I will attempt to master them all. This is, of course, the desire of what we call Amida Buddha. But there's a very famous story about the Ganges River. One day, the historical Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, was walking with his cousin Ananda, and he was trying to explain to Ananda how precious it is to encounter the Dharma. And what the Buddha did was he picked up a handful of sand from the Ganges River, and he asked Ananda, he said, "Ananda, which has more sand, the sand in my hand or the sand on the riverbanks?" And Ananda said, "Oh, of course, the sand on the riverbank." And the Buddha said, "Being born as a human into this world is like the scoop of sand on my hand. Of all the infinite life that there is, we have been born as a human being." And then he proceeded to dab his finger into his hand, and he lifted up his finger, and there was some sand stuck to the end of his finger. And he said, "Ananda, which has more sand, the sand in my palm or the sand in my finger?" And Ananda said, "Oh, the sand in your hand." And the Buddha said, "Yes, exactly." He said, "Encountering the Dharma is like the sand on the fingertip. Of all the human beings, you have now had the possibility or you have had the encounter to come in contact with the Dharma, how precious this gift is. And so as we look at it from that perspective, it is truly a Happy New Year in the sense that we have encountered the Dharma. Last year, I guess at the beginning, near the beginning of the pandemic, I wrote an article for the JSPTC, our national organization. And in that article, I brought up this diagram, which I'm sharing with you now. Let's see. Can you all see the diagram okay? Okay. This is called a Venn diagram, and I first brought it up in the at the Fraser Valley Buddhist Temple, and it was Lucy Yoshioka who mentioned to me that this is indeed what we call a Venn diagram. And as I mentioned earlier, 3 is a very important number in Buddhism, and what we call the 3 treasures or the 3 pillars of Buddhism are the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. Okay, and these 3, the Buddha, of course, was the historical being, but is the enlightened one, and it's through the historical being that we learn about the Dharma, the teachings, and finally the Sangha is the community. And all 3 of these intersect in the middle here, and this middle here is represented by our temple, or it doesn't have to be temple as in physically, but our community gathering together to listen to the teachings. And it is truly a wondrous occasion when we can gather like this to listen to the teachings, to honor our loved ones. And it is through the teachings that we become one with our loved ones. Through the teachings, we gather here today to remember our loved ones who have gone before us. So in the eternal now of time, they are here with us in our hearts at this very moment. You know, without having this service, many of you, or many of us, would not have that opportunity to reflect on our loved ones. We may just forget about it after, a certain period of time. But because of this service, you've gathered. I know a number of you who contacted me to ask me to put you on the invitation for this monthly memorial service. It is because of the service that you've actually made that effort to remember that individual. If we didn't have this service, who knows? You may not have thought about it today. But because of that, they are here with us now today. And so through this oneness of life, through the Dharma, we are given this opportunity to reflect, to realize, appreciate how valuable, how precious it is that we can share this time together. You know, as I was mentioning earlier about the Mikkabozu, the 3-day monk, I myself am a Mikkabozu because one of my resolutions annually is that I will try to be a better person the next year, but inevitably I find myself complaining about something right off the bat on New Year's Day. And that's my true self is the person that even though I want to be better, I find myself being the same. And it is through the Dharma that it makes me reflect to see my true self. But at the same time, it is through the Dharma that I am encountering a greater oneness. And it makes me appreciate even more the time that we are able to share with one another. So I thank you all for making this effort today to join us for this New Year, this January Shotsuki monthly memorial service. And at this time, I should have done this actually on New Year's Day, but it slipped my mind, and Roy Sensei actually was kind enough to remind me of it, is that annually we receive a New Year's greeting from our Gomonshu. Gomonshu is like the head of our organization. He would be the equivalent of the Pope to the Catholics. And Gomonshu Otani Kojun sends out an annual New Year's greeting. And we do have it in our newsletter, but at this time I'd like to also read our Gomonshu-sama's New Year's greeting. New Year's greeting. Happy New Year, everyone. At the beginning of this new year, I would like to extend my best regards to you all. Throughout the last year, the world suffered from the pandemic of COVID-19, which brought tremendous hardship to many people, and we still are not able to see when normalcy would return to our world. On this occasion, I would like to offer my deepest condolences to those who fell victim to COVID-19 and express my sympathies to those who are currently undergoing treatment. When social activities have been largely restricted as measures for preventing the spread of infection and protecting people's lives, many temples have been struggling for continuing their propagation. It concerns me that many people have been left isolated in the midst of hardship. Dependent origination is a universal truth that Buddha Shakyamuni presented. This fundamental Buddhist principle expresses that everything, matter and phenomena, arises from various causes and conditions. None of us lives by ourselves. We are living beings, interconnected and mutually supported by one another. Here in Japan, a new type of lifestyle called the new normal has been introduced to protect people, their loved ones, and communities from infection. Considering the reality that we cannot even fathom when the pandemic will decline, it is important that everyone deeply reflects on the principle of dependent origination that represents the true state of the world. Even though having been introduced to the truth by Buddha Shakyamuni, ordinary people like us are still not able to accept it as it is. Therefore, to guide us to cope with the suffering caused by our own ignorance, Shinran Shonin clarifies Amida Buddha's compassion that always embraces all of us. When the world is facing the unimaginable crisis, it is crucial that each of us experiences Amida Buddha's great compassion ourselves and live each day to the utmost, having the joy and cessation in our hearts as the basis of our life. It is my hope that your temples will continue serving as your spiritual home, and therefore I sincerely ask for your understanding and cooperation to allow them to be so. With my heartfelt appreciation for each one of you, I would like to conclude my New Year's greeting. January 1st, 2021, Otani Kojun, Monshu, Jodo Shinshu, Hongan Jiha. Thank you all for, again, joining us. And at this time, this will conclude, I would like to conclude the morning, the January Shotsuki monthly memorial service with the recitation of the Nembutsu. So please join me in Gassho. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. And if you wanted to unmute yourself, you may do so now.
So Reverend Grant, you're both metaphorically and realistically a 3-day monk. I mean, it's both your metaphor, it's both a metaphor and
yes, you're right.
I can't say that about us non-minister people, but we can say that about you. The symbolic representation and the real representation.
Yeah, thank you. Jennifer is my cousin, so she gets away with saying things like that.
Exactly.
Thanks, Jennifer. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
For those of you who are,
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy
Have
New
a
Year.
good week.
Yeah,
Yes, Happy New Year.
We are continuing on with the study session this Tuesday. So I've sent out the invitation for those who have been joining us.
Okay.
Yeah, so I just wanted to pass that on to you, and thank you, everyone. Just reading.
Thank
Thank
you.
very much. Thank you, Reverend Grant.
Bye-bye,
Thank you, Reverend
everyone.
Grant.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you,
Everybody.
everybody. Thank you, Reverend Grant.
Thank you. Happy New
Happy New
Year.
Year.
Everyone. Happy New Year. Happy New
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Thank you for joining us. For those of you who are joining for the first time, I hope it was okay for you. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Reverend Grant.
Thank you, Reverend.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Reverend. Thank you.
We'll see you.
Bye.
Bye.